What's up, y'all? This week we've been waiting on parts for basically everything. I'm waiting on a whole motor for the red car and waiting on a couple things for the gray one, and Justin's waiting on some stuff for his, so we're kind of just at a standstill here, and I will be on vacation next week, so won't be doing much filming then. So I made a little Q&A on Instagram asking if anyone wanted to see anything, any specific things about anything that I do here. So I'm just going to answer a couple of them today. So I had two big questions come in, and the one was trackside tuning, and the other one was suspension tuning, four-link, stuff like that. So I figured the best way to do it is to combine them into both, because it all kind of plays out together when you start, building race cars and going fast. I mean, I set my four-link up at home, and then I look for specific things in my data log when I get to the track. So I figured I would make this video talking about the way that I do things, the way that I have gone about setting this car up, and it's been pretty fast at the 60 foot, so it's, definitely not the wrong way, but I'm also not a chassis expert, so if you guys have better ways that you do things or like the way someone else does it, that's great. Good for you. Keep learning and keep doing what you got to do, but this is just how I've done it forever, and take it all with a little bit of a grain of salt, because I'm no pro at this stuff. I don't build chassis for a living. This car's never been on scales before in my ownership. It was when it had the LSX, but everything's been moved around, weight's been changed. It probably isn't even close to being relevant anymore. But this is how I go about setting up four-link, and then what I do when I grab the laptop after making a pass at the racetrack. So let's get into that. I'll do my best to show everything that I can with limited filming ability, but hopefully it makes some sense to you. So we are here under the car, and have a very bright light on here, and this is ultra dirty, so my apologies for that. But there you can see this car has upper and lower torque boxes, adjustable, all up over here. There's these ones, kind of tough to see, but you can definitely see right in there the adjustment. Adjustable brackets on the rear end, and adjustable upper torque boxes on the chassis itself. So when I got this car, I believe the bars were up here on this one, and they were down on the second to lowest right there. So to me, that meant absolutely nothing, and I went through all the stuff to calculate the anti-squat out and all that stuff, and it just didn't mean anything to me. I was like, cool, these numbers, nice, but that means nothing. So I was just like, I'm just going to start moving them around until I get somewhere. And I did do a little bit of reading online, and basically the biggest thing that I learned and what helped me the most was your upper bar, so your upper control arm bar right here. This is what's going to dictate your full suspension travel. So this is being a radial tire car. I want it to extend. So I want the rear end to push down and the body of the car to go up. So if you have this bar will never travel past center or past flat. So like when the bar is flat like that, that is all the further it'll go. It'll never do this because you don't have any more geometrical tilt. So what I did is I just took this bar here and I aimed it as far down as it would go. So I put it, I believe, in this hole right here, the furthest one down. And then I just went with it. And so remember, the bar was right there on that second to bottom hole. And what I noticed and what I did after that, so I set the bars there, and then I took a angle finder and I would set it on the bottom of this right here with the car at ride height on the ground. And then I would go in the car and I would zero out my shock travel sensor, which you can see I have a Low Dollar Motorsports travel sensor right there. So you put it right here, zero out your travel sensor, and then I would jack the car up until my angle finder read 0. And that would tell me roughly how much travel I had until the car was geometrically, Jesus, can't talk, but that would tell me how much travel I had to go, how much usable suspension travel I had. And that's how I went off of my shock changes and things like that. So it's pretty relatively simple. But then when I started getting into it more, I noticed that with the bar down here versus up here, it would travel much faster. So it would make it, so I had roughly 3.2 inches of travel in this car. And with the bar way down here, it would travel super fast to 3.2 inches, and then it would hold it. and it would just slowly settle as the whole run went down. But once I started battling wheelies, because once you start aiming that bar way down, your instant center gets super short. And so it makes the car kind of a wheelie machine. And so when I was trying to get it to stop wheeling, I didn't think that changing this one would do much. Like, I thought I would lose so much travel that the car wouldn't work anymore. So I just moved this one up one hole, so then I was right here. Then it took some travel from it away. It just didn't have the bite, so it wouldn't travel quite as aggressively up to 3 inches. It would only go about 2.8. Still was wheeling, so I moved it up to where it is now. Then it would only travel about 1.5 inches. Still hooked up good, but could still do some big wheelies. So for Florida, since we had some super good track conditions, I went and moved this up one hole because I didn't think I would need the travel on the really good track. Since the track's so sticky, typically you won't need all that travel. So I never got to try it out, as you guys may know if you've watched my previous videos. But I am going to leave it right there and just give it a shot. I'll probably end up moving this one down one and try it. And we'll figure out what my total travel is with my bar there and then my lower bar here. But that's basically how I go about it. I mean, you can calculate the anti-squat and do all that stuff, but I just never really had a need for it. But and then after that, like if I noticed the car was traveling up to 3.2 inches super quickly and it was just sitting there, then you go and you tighten up your shocks a little bit and slow it down just a little bit. So that's when your shock tuning comes into play. Let me get around a better angle. I can talk some more about that. Some sense to y'all. All right, so I hope everyone can hear me pretty good. I'm gonna do my best. This is my first time ever doing this. But so what I was saying back there about shock travel and your bar positioning and everything. So before I would go to the track, like I said earlier, I would measure out my full bar length travel. How much suspension travel do I have at the most with this car at the location of the bars that are set right there? So you can see my data log here. Let me clear out some of this nonsense. That should be all right. So this green one here is shock travel. You can see up here, it tells you how much. So this was the second run, I believe. Let's put a TPS on here. Okay, yep, this is the second run that I did at Cache at the Creek, right when we finally started going pretty fast with the car. You can see right here on the chip, this is things that I look at for trackside tuning. So right at the chip, right there is about where I let off the button. We're at 4,400 RPMs, 10.3 PSI boost. Pretty normal numbers for this car. Looks like we're around about 20 degrees of timing. That's a little hot for what it normally is, but not bad. Yeah, she pops right up off the button. So left about 11.3 degrees. But so I look at that things, how did the run go? Did the car go fast to the 60 foot? Did it not go fast to the 60 foot? Then we come up here and we look at shock travel. That's the next thing I looked at based on did it spin the tires or did it not? And I also look at drive shaft speed. So here in the purple is the drive shaft speed. So you can see here, it did not miss a beat at all. It'll get super jumpy like this if you start spinning the tires and stuff. Most of the time this up top jumps like this is just it's sensor noise, or it's just the car is bouncing along down the track, so you'll kind of get a little variations in numbers. But right here, when you're on full tilt, that's about as perfect as you'd want it right there. No hops, nothing. So you look at that, you see, okay, we didn't spin the tires at all. Awesome. Then we go look at the shock travel. So I believe when I set it up there, it had 3.2 inches of travel, and you can see here it went 3.12. So we're literally getting right up to the peak amount of travel. And you'll hear a lot of people call that you top the shock out. So in this car, theoretically, I'm not topping the shock out. It's a triangulated 4-link, so it doesn't really have a ton of suspension travel. So it's more just you're maxing out how far it'll go. So we maxed out at 3.1 here on this one, and then you can just see it steadily goes down as the run goes out, which is normal. Car settles a little bit, you get rolling, you get some speed under it. It'll typically do that, especially on a lower horsepower car like mine. So it looked there. So then when it comes back to going back in the pits, and I see all this stuff, you got to make a decision on what you're going to do next. So I obviously wanted to go a lot faster than this. So looking at this, it didn't spin the tires. So we're like, let's turn it up. Let's do something. So I crank it up. But then seeing that we're right about to our peak shock travel, I figure we should probably tighten the shocks up a little bit to not allow it to travel quite as far, because normally that's when you'll knock the tires off 30, 40 feet out, is because you physically either ran out of shock or you ran out of suspension travel. So especially since we're riding right up to that edge, I was like, let's tighten the shocks up a little bit. So I went ahead, turned it up, tightened the shocks up, and then I believe I have a data log. Nope, I don't. So I'll open another data log here. So that one was, I think, 1, and here we'll go TT2. So you come into here. So now we'll go into this log and look. Looks like I left on about 12.2 pounds. Did I pedal it? Nope, no pedal on this one either. So 12.2 pounds, about 4,420 RPM, same as last time. We were pretty low on the timing, just like the last time, 7 degrees. That's because of all my timing tables and fancy stuff like that. But so we left hard again. I mean, you can look at the drive shaft speed here. Not a blip in it, maybe a little one right there, but like I said, when they're that small, that could be just a bump in the track. I mean, it varied maybe 2 miles an hour. It just kind of went off just a little bit, but no big deal. Come up, look at the shock travel. We only went about just under 3 inches that time. So that there shows us that tightening up the shocks worked. It kept it contained a little more. We left on almost 2 more PSI of boost than we did the last time. So, I mean, that showed me right there, the car is taking it and it's liking it quite a bit. And so then we can go into next data log. So that was 526 at 141. That was the fastest I'd ever been for a long time in this car. So looks like we left on 4,500. I kicked it up. Left right at about 11.5 pounds. So we lost a little bit of boost on the leave there. But we were still about the same in timing. Probably took a boost ramp away was what I ended up doing. You can see target dome, which is where? Don't even see that. Where is target dome? It's probably out of scale. Yeah, it is. So we'll go 40, and maybe we can see that. There you go. So target dome just had a very slight bit of a ramp in there. So that's how you get it. That's getting it to the 60 foot is where all your boost in is immediately. So with the added power, it still came up and traveled pretty hard again, back up to about 3.1, but no big deal because we got 3.2 inches of travel. But as far as ignition timing and stuff like that goes, it always stays the same for me. You can see right here, it looks like it just knocked the tire just for a split second right off of the button. I've seen it do this before, but I've never been able to feel it or even notice it in the car. So I'm not really sure what that's about, but otherwise, again, the drive shaft curve here, real nice and straight, about perfect all the way up. So that's basically my chassis tuning and trackside tuning 101 for at least my car anyway. I'll go up and look at, boost up top. You can see where how your converter was doing, which you can see the RPM trace on this is super weird. It was also breaking up really bad this day, but you can see the converter flash is about 6,700. That was a tight converter for this combination. Really not ideal, but come up to the shift about 8120. Your RPM curve should be a little better than this. This one was pretty horrific with that tight converter. But other than that, for trackside tuning stuff, I can just go into some other things. All this is kind of messed up since I just re-downloaded the Holly. But I'll usually just take a look at my target air fuel and my actual. Which if you can look over there, it stays pretty true. Current learn within 5-6%. Maybe it bounces a little bit after that. I'll usually do it on the gear change, but once it gets settled down, she's pretty consistent. But yeah, I take a peek at that stuff. You can come in and look at your timing, see what's actually going on there. That always helps in case you have something turned on that you didn't want to, which I'm known for doing. But you can see right off the button here, it pretty much just settles right down to about 11.0-ish. Maybe a little more once it starts creeping up in RPMs, like right up in here. Yeah, we're up around 11.5, 11.6, 11.7. So yeah, then take a peek at your boost too and make sure everything's where you want it to. I mean, the boost curve looks pretty nice here. I mean, we were all in 30 PSI by 1.5 seconds. But like I said, I did have a hair of a boost ramp in there. But yeah, it's about, I know there's a lot of people that go into this quite a bit harder than I do. I don't have a ton of data to look at, but there is quite a bit you can see just from watching it. Never hurts to take a peek at your oil pressure too. I'll put that one up here. So here, this one's oil pressure. So it's making pretty much 80 all the time, 87. Seems pretty normal for a stock bottom end LS. So things that you got to watch for too, battery. Like usually I don't ever take the hood off of my car. So if I see that the battery voltage is way down like it is here, because I had actually killed the alternator on this pass, that doesn't really do me too good. So those are all things that you can look for, things to notice. And like I said, you can go into this much, much deeper than I have. I just kind of do my own thing and figure it out, and a little bit of teach myself, kind of, learn as you go. But yeah, it seems to be working pretty good. I mean, I've been bottom 120s to the 60 foot. I'm super curious to see with the new converter how it's going to react. That'll be a bit of a learning curve too, because everything's going to change. I mean, this one couples up pretty hard, being super tight like it is. But it'll be super interesting to see how it all goes. But biggest things I look at, shock travel and drive shaft speed. Those are my two for just basically full-on track tuning a car. No messing with fuel, or I don't typically add any timing. But as far as spinning the tires go, then you can work into, turning it down. Did it top the shock out? Did it not travel at all? I mean, there's so many avenues you can go. But let's see, basic I/O here. Here's what you use for timing retards. So you can just activate this, activate on input release, and set it to your trans brake. And then, you can do this kind of stuff for timing. If you got a bad spot in the track about 1 second out, you can do so much stuff with this. It's absolutely amazing. There's a whole bunch of things, whole bunch of different avenues. But yeah, that's about what I got for this. If I need to go more into it, I can, if someone has some questions. But yeah, like I said, I don't really look at a whole lot. I'll come home and look at the data and just compare it to old tunes and stuff like that. But as far as trackside go, open it up, glance over, see what everything looked like, and make a change from there, and then get after it. So that's about it for that. So then you all heard me talking about making some shock adjustments and shock changes. So down here is your compression on an AFCO, and then way up at the top there's a collar all the way up here. It's kind of hard to see and reach, but that is your rebound. So the way I always do it is I always go to full tight and then count my clicks back. So if I have the shock set up right now and we decide that we're going to make a change, I will count them all the way to full tight, which I believe is clockwise. And then once I get that number, say I want them to be looser, then I'll count them, say 2 clicks looser all the way back. That's typically how I go about doing it. Do it for both of them. Some people need them staggered, but this car runs pretty good being right even. It usually drives super straight, so I don't really have too many problems with that stuff. But if you're doing a lot of track tuning, definitely recommend one of these guys. Shock travel sensors are absolutely awesome. And then I would also, I'll get the light so you can see, I would recommend a drive shaft speed sensor, because these are also super awesome and it makes your trackside tuning super easy. These come from Motion Raceworks. They sell a super nice kit for an 8.8. They are yoke specific, so if you have a strange yoke, they only work on a specific model of the strange yoke, so beware of that before you purchase. And then for the shock travel sensor, as it says on the side, Low Dollar Motorsports. They make the best ones around. Get yourself a nice set of shock nuts like these. I have them on the top and the bottom, and that's how they clip in there. Makes a super easy install. No BS, really. And I would recommend running a front shock travel sensor. I am going to put one on this car because it makes front suspension tuning much nicer, because that is key to no big wheelies. So, yeah. So that's pretty much my piece of advice for track tuning and 4-link setup. I know mine probably seems super basic compared to any other videos you probably watched, or some of the guys who are super fast, but it seems to work so far for me. And it's just something that I understand, and everybody understands it quite a bit differently. But yeah, that's how I do it. It seems to be all right. I'm going to, as we start getting faster, I'll start doing some more a little aggressive things, fine tuning kind of stuff. I want to see just how fast it'll go to the 60 foot, and once I can't get it to go any faster, then we'll start really getting into the fine tuning stuff. But like I said, as far as right now, the car don't really seem to care. I mean, you can go on any track, run the same tune all the time, and it's never spun the tires since I've gotten it. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I'm in a little tough ballpark there because I haven't really had any issues with it working. Once I got the car where I wanted it to be, it just seemed to always go down. I mean, it would go bottom 120s all day long without really trying. But then, like you say, you turn it up a little bit and it wheelies, but then I just never made the right adjustments to try to get it to quit wheeling. So that's the plan for this year, is quit wheeling, go faster than that. And we'll see just how far we can take this suspension before I got to start really getting the notebook out and start dialing in, fine tuning, all that good stuff. But that's pretty much going to wrap up this video, guys. If you want to see any other videos, like I said, I'm not an expert at very much, but if you learn the same way I do, or something that I say clicks, that by all means, I can make a video on pretty much anything. So comment below if you want to see something else. Comment below if you want to see me make another video of anything else, really. I'll do anything for now. We're on a parts standstill at the moment, waiting for engines to get cleaned up and waiting for parts for the gray car so I can start beating on that thing again. But yeah, so just let me know, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. I hope this helped. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.